my channel and to the start of my reading vlog for Smutathon, the Halloween edition. So today is Monday the 25th of October, so the readathon starts today and it lasts for the entire week. And I am so excited to just read some romance this week, basically. I haven't read a lot of romance lately. I've read a lot of fantasy, so I'm very ready to just take a break from that now and just dive into some romance this week. I've already filmed a TBR/pile of possibilities video that should be up by now. I tried to include a lot of different types of books on my pile of possibilities because I don't actually have a lot of Halloween type books. I don't celebrate Halloween, it's just not something that I have grown up doing. Halloween has definitely become more of a thing here over the past few years. Like, you can find Halloween decorations in the stores now, and like kids go trick-or-treating, but that was never something that was a thing when I was growing up. So it's definitely a more recent thing, and like, I don't like spooky things in general, and I've never celebrated Halloween, so I just don't have an urge to do it. It's just not a thing in my life, basically. But I still wanted to do this readathon, and I still wanted to try to include some books that would check off some prompts on this bingo board over here. And I think if I get to a few of these books, I could definitely check out quite a few prompts. So I have already finished my first book for the readathon. I started last night at midnight. I started reading my first book, which was Introducing Mr. Winterbourne by Joanna Chambers. This is a historical romance and it's very short. It's just a novella, so it was about, I think, 50 pages. So I started it last night and then I finished it up this morning. I really like this one. It's basically about our main character, Lysander, and he is the youngest son of an earl. And all he really wants to do is to take over the estate and manage the estate where he grew up. But as the youngest son, that's not really in the cards for him. And his older sister, she is getting married to a pretty wealthy guy, or a guy from a pretty wealthy family. He comes from a family of mill owners, and the older brother of this guy is now in town, and Lysander is being asked by his father to kind of like show him around and introduce him to people. And Lysander is not super eager to do that because this guy is kind of known to be kind of rude, kind of grumpy, just not someone that he wants to spend time with, but he reluctantly agrees to kind of show him around. So the two of them end up spending the day together, and this guy, he is our other main character, Adam, and he just doesn't really like society. He doesn't really want to be introduced to everyone, but he's like the head of his family now. He's the guy who's kind of in charge of the money and all that, so he really needs to have some kind of relationship with the family that his brother is now marrying into. So basically the two of them spend the day together and they both kind of realize that there is some attraction there. And this novella is pretty short, like I said. So this whole entire novella basically takes place over the course of a day. So not that much happens. I mean, the two of them do eventually hook up and they realize that they like each other, but there's not really a lot of romance or like romantic feelings being discussed or anything like that. But there is a sequel to this one that I think takes place during Christmas, and I really want to read that one in December because I think it's about the same two characters. So I'm kind of hoping we'll get more from them then, because this was really good. It didn't feel rushed or anything, but I still wanted more. Like, I felt like there was still more I wanted to know about these characters and how things will develop between them. So I'm like super eager to read more, hopefully this coming December. So this was a super good start to the readathon. Like I said, I really enjoyed this book. I would probably give it like 4 stars or something. It was just good. And it will check off quite a few prompts as well. It would definitely check off the prompt to read a novella, because this was novella length. It could also work for new to me author, because I've never read anything by Joanna Chambers before. It could potentially also work for enemies or rivals, because these two characters definitely don't like each other. In the beginning, they have no urge to spend time together at all. Obviously, that changes pretty soon. But I think I could potentially check off that prompt as well. But I may read some other things this week that could work better for the prompt. So I think for now, I will use it to check off the novella prompt and also the new to author prompt. So that is at least 2 prompts done. So like I said, today is Monday, and I think I mentioned in my TBR video that I have the entire week off from work, which is just lovely, and I just want to spend so much time reading, so I'm about to sit down and start my next book now. I think I'm going to read Cabin Fever by Pandora Pine next, just because I think this one could potentially check off quite a few prompts as well, and I just want to get a good start to the readathon. And this one is a paranormal book. It's about a bear shifter and a hiker that gets lost in the mountains or something. And this one is also novella length. I think it's just over 70 pages. So this one should also be pretty quick. And I just really want to get a good start to the readathon. Get some books read, check off some prompts, and just feel like I have a good start. So I think this one could be a good second book. So that's going to be it for this first update, and I will talk to you very soon. So it's now Tuesday, it's the second day of the readathon, and I have been reading some things since my last update. Yesterday, very late yesterday, I finished Cabin Fever by Pandora Pine. This is a pretty short novella. It's about our main character Tanner, and he goes on a weekend trip with some friends. They're staying in this hotel in like a mountain area that is good for hiking. And one day Tanner, he goes for a hike alone, not knowing that there is a blizzard coming. And he ends up being caught in this blizzard, and he gets lost, and he falls and he hurt his foot. And our other main character, Cody, he is a bear shifter. And he's staying in this remote cabin in this mountain area, but he also works as like kind of a ranger person. So he is being called out to try and find Tanner when he doesn't come home. So he is the one who ends up finding Tanner, and he brings him to his cabin, and the two of them kind of stay there during this blizzard. This book wasn't my favorite. It just didn't really work for me for several reasons. The writing style was my favorite. It never really flowed, it felt like. It felt really staccato almost. I felt like the setting and the world wasn't completely developed. And I would also like more build-up within the relationship between Cody and Tanner. And also the bear shifter thing seemed like that one just wasn't properly explored, I felt like. Like, for instance, when Tanner found out that Cody is a bear shifter, it wasn't even talked about at all. Tanner just kind of discovered it and was like, okay. And then they moved on, and it was never talked about. And it was just several things like that made this just not really work for me. So I don't think I could give it more than 2 stars. Like, it wasn't the worst thing I've ever read, but it was just lacking in several areas for me. So yeah, just not my favorite. It did cross off some prompts on the bingo board though, and I realized just now when I was looking at the board that this book alone actually gave me a bingo. 2 of the prompts I had already crossed off with the first book that I read, but now I actually have a bingo because of this book. So this book works for the prompt 2021 release. It was being released early in 2021 as far as I was able to find out. It also works for novella, even though I had already crossed off that prompt. It works for shifter because Cody is a bear shifter. And it also works for new to you author because I've never read from this author before. Although that prompt I had already crossed off as well. So that means that I have a bingo, which was the goal of this readathon. I will obviously continue reading books and try to cross off some other prompts as well. But yeah, this was great. I did not realize that this book alone could cross off so many prompts. I don't think it could cross off any more prompts than that. I was wondering if Cody as a bear shifter could work for a supernatural main character. I'm not sure what qualifies as being a supernatural character. Like, in my head I'm picturing like angels and demons, so I don't know if shifters work for that. I might have to Google it to try and find out. Or I might read other books later in the week that for sure will cross off that prompt. So for now I think I'll leave it open, but yeah, maybe. And then I have also started another book because I needed something to start this morning. So I decided to go with The Ballerino and the Biker by Rebecca James. This one is a longer book, not super long. I think it's under 200 pages, but a little bit longer than these first two books that I've read. So this one is probably going to take me a little longer to get through. I don't expect to finish it today, but I'm hoping to finish it tomorrow. I'm actually really liking it so far. It's about our main character Morgan, and he is a dancer. Dancing is his like one true passion, and he's just finished school. He's gone to this academy in Milan for dancing, and now he's back in New York. And his brother Jake just died, and his parents died a few years earlier, so now it's basically just Morgan left of his family. And Jake, the brother, he was in a motorcycle club, and he died, I think, in like a motorcycle accident or something. And when he died, he actually wasn't alone. There was a girl with him, and that girl, she is the girlfriend of a guy, I think the leader of a rival motorcycle club. So now that motorcycle club is out for revenge because, you know, both Jake and the girl, they died in that accident. So basically they're after Morgan because he is the brother of Jake. So Morgan was just kind of living his life. He wasn't super close with his brother because the brother, for several reasons, was kicked out of home when he was younger. And Morgan was even younger than that. So they've never really been that close. But over the past few years after their parents died, they have been, you know, establishing a connection kind of long distance since Morgan was in Milan. And they were both kind of determined to work on their relationship and get closer when Morgan returned to New York. So he's pretty upset that his brother is dead, even though they weren't super close. And he knew that his brother was in a motorcycle club, but he didn't know about this other stuff. So one day when a guy from the motorcycle club kind of shows up at Morgan's apartment where he lives with his friend, and he's kind of just telling Morgan that you need to come with us because there's some guys out to get you. So all of a sudden Morgan's life has just turned around completely, and he's now living with this motorcycle club. They're basically taking care of him and protecting him because this other club is out to get him because of what his brother did. So that's basically the premise. So far I'm about 30% into the book, I think. I've never read a motorcycle club type romance before, but so far this is definitely working for me. I really like Morgan as a character, and I'm also really intrigued by the love interest, which is Zeke. He is the guy who came to get Morgan to take him back to the motorcycle club because he'd be safer there. And Zeke is kind of this, like, he's kind of this big, grumpy guy, kind of quiet, doesn't really say much, but there's definitely some attraction there, so I'm interested to see what will happen. So that's my update for now. I feel like I'm doing pretty good so far. 2 books finished, even though they were shorter, and then like 30% into the third one. So like I said, I'm hoping to finish the Ballerina and the Biker tomorrow, so I guess I'll be back then with another update. So yeah, I'll talk to you then. So it's now Wednesday evening. I'm in bed, as you can probably tell. I'm just about to read for a while before I go to sleep, but I just wanted to drop by real quickly and let you know that I finished another book. I didn't read as much as I wanted to today because I kind of got lost in trying to organize my Kindle, basically. Like, I started making these folders, collections, I think they're called on Kindle, and just trying to like organize all my books, because at this point I have so many books on my Kindle. It's just a mess on there. So I had already started trying to organize it, and then I continued today, and it took a while. And because of that, I didn't really get too much reading or anything else that I planned to do today, really. But at least my Kindle is starting to look somewhat organized. I mean, I'm still not done. I still have some more things that I want to do, but I'm getting there. It's looking better, I think. So at least that's something that I've done today. But anyway, the book that I finished today, it was the book that I started yesterday, The Ballerino and the Biker by Rebecca James. This one was good. I really liked it. It's not a very long book. I think it was about 180 pages, and a lot happened. And I think the author did a good job of not making it feel rushed. Like, it felt natural. The pacing was good. I would have maybe liked to see some more conversations between our two main characters. I really liked the way the relationship developed, and it felt natural, and I wasn't really missing anything from it, but I would have maybe liked to see a little bit more dialogue between them. This book, it's maybe not the most realistic thing I've ever read, but like I don't really mind that much in romances as long as the rest of the story and the book is done well. And I feel like this one was. So yeah, I'm kind of pleasantly surprised. Not that I expected to not like this book. It's more that this is a new to me author, and I haven't really heard a lot about this book. So I kind of went into it thinking that, okay, this could be good, but it could just as well be just like mediocre or not good. And then I ended up liking it, so I'm thrilled by that. So I don't have my computer here, so I can't check which prompts this one could potentially check off, but I actually don't think it's that many. It is a contemporary book. I think the only prompt it could check off is the new to me author prompt, but I've already read 2 other books for that prompt, so I don't really think it's checking off anything new, but I'm still glad that I read it because I enjoyed it. I also found out that this is like the first book in a series that has, I think, 8 books. Which I didn't know going into it, but now I kind of want to read the other books as well, so I guess we'll see if I ever get to that, but yeah, this was just good. I would give it 4 stars, I think. Like, it's not my favorite thing I've read, but it was good, and I enjoyed it, so. So like I said, now I'm about to read for a while before I go to sleep, and I think the book I'm going to start now is Vanilla Clouds by Ro Horvath. Like I mentioned, either in my TBR or in the start of this vlog, this is a book that I just really want to get to during this readathon, so I figured I might as well just start it. It's also not very long. I think it's just over 100 pages, and I actually don't know too much about it, so I guess I'll, talk about the book more when I've actually read it, but that's my plan, to start it now. So yeah, I'm just gonna go and do that, and then I guess I'll talk to you once I've finished it. So hello, time for another update, because I have been reading something since we last spoke. Today is Friday. By the way, I think my last update was kind of late on Wednesday, and I think I was about to start Vanilla Clouds by Ro Horvath when I updated last. I've now finished that book. I finished it kind of late yesterday, so it was kind of too late to make an update. This book, it was so sweet. Like, it was sweet like in the traditional sense, but then it was also literally sweet, because this book, there's a lot of chocolate in this book. Basically, our main character, Mikal, and I know I'm saying that name wrong because it's supposed to be a Polish name, and I don't think this is how you pronounce it, but it's how it feels natural to me to pronounce it, so I'm just going to say it that way, even though I know it's probably wrong. But Mikal, he works in a chocolatery, I think it's called. It's a word that I've never heard, but it's basically kind of like a cafe that specializes in like fancy, expensive chocolate. And our main character, he loves his job, and is very passionate about chocolate, and is very knowledgeable about chocolate. And Mikal, he hasn't had the best luck in love. He had a bad experience about a year ago when he was hooking up with someone who ended up being kind of violent, so he ended up in hospital and things like that. And ever since that, he's been kind of cautious and kind of pessimistic, really, just about like love in general. But there is this guy that he is chatting with online, and they've been chatting for a few years now, I think. And this guy, he is from the same place as Mikal, but he works abroad, and he's lived abroad for a few years, so they haven't met each other. They initially met during a hookup app, and they were supposed to meet each other, but then this other guy, Magnus, he moved before they had time to do that, so they basically just kept chatting. And they really like each other, but it's like, because it's an online thing, it's never really become anything more than chatting. And yeah, I think that's all I'm going to say. I also want to say that this book is actually set in Sweden. It's set in Gothenburg, and Mikal, he is originally from Poland, but he moved to Sweden when he was 14. And our other main character, Magnus, he is Swedish, but he's been living in Germany for some time. And there's just something about like reading a Scandinavian setting that is just feels so familiar to me. Like even though it's a different country, I feel like Norway and Sweden are pretty similar overall. And there's just something like it's no secret that most of the romances I read and most of the books that I read in general are set in the US, which is fine, like I don't have any problems with that. But you know, when I read a Scandinavian setting, it just feels so much more familiar to me and it's just nice. So that was kind of a nice surprise. I wasn't aware that this book was set in Sweden before I went into it. I think the author, Ro Horvath, I don't think he is originally from Sweden, but I think he's lived in Sweden for quite a few years now. So it was very evident in this book that the author knew the setting. You know, the setting was very vivid and I could almost like see it and feel it, which was really nice. So overall, I really did enjoy this book. I was a little surprised because I think I mentioned that I read another book by the author before and that book was like super steamy. And this book was a little bit steamy at times, but like most of all, it was just very sweet. And that tells me that this author apparently writes very different things and he writes it very well. And that makes me just even more intrigued to check out more books. Anyway, I ended up giving this book 4 stars and it was just like a really enjoyable time. It doesn't really cross off any new prompts on the bingo board, I feel like. This is another contemporary book. It could work for a novella, for instance, but I've already crossed off that prompt. So this morning I kind of realized that I need to read something that will cross off a few more prompts on the bingo board because I feel like I still have a lot of prompts left that I haven't been able to check off. So I decided to read Trapped with a Vampire by M.M. Wild, and I wanted to try and read it in one sitting so that I could check off that prompt. So I did. I started this morning and I finished it this morning. This is just a quick story about a vampire and a shifter who meets on a train ride from Paris to the Alps. And so it checks off the prompt read in one sitting, obviously. It also checks off the prompt vampire, and it could also work for the prompt paranormal, even though I already have read something for that prompt. And also it could work for novella, shifter, and new to me author. So that book just checks off a lot of prompts, including someone that I hadn't already read something for. So that was great. This book was, it wasn't bad. I quite liked it actually. I will admit that vampires is just not my favorite thing to read about. So for that reason, this wasn't going to be like a favorite book. And also it was just very short and very quick. But I really liked the writing style. So I think overall I would give this one 3 stars. It was pretty enjoyable actually. So after finishing that one this morning, I've basically just been doing some chores around the house. And then I took a shower. And then this evening my sister is coming over. We kind of have this thing where we watch a TV series together. We just finished our rewatch of Glee, which is, you know, one of our favorite shows. And this rewatch just took forever because during COVID she wasn't really around because she's a student. She's only in the city for her studies. And then during COVID, most of her classes were from home. So she moved back to our parents' house for most of COVID really, and that is like 4 hours away, so I wasn't able to see her much during that time. But now she's back this semester. It's pretty much back to normal with her classes and stuff. So now we've started back up with our TV series watching. So we finished our rewatch of Glee last month, and now we're watching another series. It's a Norwegian like comedy series, which is pretty funny. So I'm looking forward to that. So she will be over later tonight so we can continue our little TV series watching together. But I do have a few hours before that, so I think now I'm just going to continue reading for a bit and also maybe try and do some editing. I need to finish editing my November TBR so it could go up. I think I wanted to go up in maybe 2 or 3 days, so I want to start some editing on that. But I almost forgot to mention I've also started another book because I ate lunch earlier and I really wanted to read something while I was eating lunch. So I took a look at my TBR and I wasn't sure what to pick up because I kind of wanted to read something longer because so far all the things that I've read have been under 200 pages, and I wanted to try and read something that is not like long but like more regular romance length. So I started a special delivery by Heidi Cullinan, and this book, it doesn't actually cross off a lot of prompts, I think, but I felt like out of the ones that I could potentially read that were longer and that I had on my TBR, this one I think might be the one that fits the best for Smutathon. I'm not sure yet, but I think like based on reviews and stuff that I've read, I think this one might be the one that is more suitable. Maybe. I don't know, we'll see. I also wanted to mention like, and to just give you an idea of how slow I'm reading, but like, you know, if you have a Kindle, you probably know that, you know, at the start of every book there is this like estimated reading time, so it sort of tells you how long it should take you to read that book. Like it estimates how long it will take you to read this book. And for this particular book, the estimated reading time I think was 5 hours and something, maybe closer to 6 hours. So between 5 and 6 hours. And now, like I said, I already started this book during lunch, and I'm currently like 8% into it. And now it says that it will take me 12 hours to finish. So that means that my reading speed is like twice as long as like the estimated or suggested reading speed. But yeah, that's just how I read. I like to take my time with each sentence, and that's just how it is. It's how I like to do my reading. So yeah, but that just to give you an image of how slow I'm actually reading. My goal is to finish it during this readathon. Like I said, today is Friday. We're about halfway through Friday, and I think I will be able to read a little bit more today, even though my sister is coming over this evening. And then I have the entire weekend to finish this up as well. So I hope I'll be able to finish it. I didn't say anything about what this book is about. I feel like this update has been way too long already. So I'm just going to give you a quick synopsis. I actually don't know too much about what this is about yet, because I'm only 8% into it. But it's basically about our main character, Sam, and he is like in his early 20s, I think, maybe 21 or something. And his life isn't great. Like he lost his mother a few years ago, so now he's living with his aunt and uncle, and he doesn't really get along with them at all. They don't like each other much, basically. But he's also working in his uncle's pharmacy, and I think we've just met our love interest, who is this like trucker guy, and they met when this other character was delivering some stuff to the pharmacy where Sam is working. And they've only just met, so I'm not sure what's going to happen with that. But yeah, I think it could get interesting. I also think this story is set a few years back, or maybe it was even written a few years back. I actually don't know when this was written, because Sam is talking about like how he recently got an iPhone, and he's just like thrilled about the fact that he can actually listen to music on it, and he can take pictures with it, and you know, surf online on it. And like, I assume that means this probably takes place around the time that smartphones became a thing. So I don't quite remember when that was, but a few years ago definitely. So that's kind of cool as well. But yeah, I'm going to end this update now. I've been talking forever, so I'll probably be back either when I finish this book or when I feel like I have something to say. So yeah, I'll talk to you then. So to be completely honest, it's now been a couple of days since the readathon ended. The readathon ended on Sunday. Today is Tuesday. Basically, I finished my final book pretty late on Sunday, so it was really too late to make an update. And then yesterday was not the best day, so I did not feel like updating. So, like I said, today is Tuesday, so we're going to finally end this vlog a couple of days late. But you know, I finished everything I wanted to finish while the readathon was still on, so it's all good. So basically, I finished my final book, like I said, on Sunday. That book was Special Delivery by Heidi Cullinan. I think I gave like a brief synopsis of that book in my last update. It's basically about our main character, Sam, who meets this other guy, Mitch, who is like a trucker. He drives this huge truck around like all over the country. And Sam basically ends up going with him on kind of a road trip. He just hasn't... Things aren't great for him at home, basically, so he kind of asks Mitch to just, you know, take him with him on when he drives his truck around. So Sam goes with him for, I don't know, maybe a couple of weeks in this truck, and they end up falling in love and all that. This book was darker than I expected. It wasn't like dark, but it wasn't like happy, fluffy either. Maybe aside from the ending, which was pretty sweet, or really sweet, to be completely honest. The romance in here, it just wasn't like straightforward. It wasn't black or white. Mitch, he has a past, and his and Sam's journey together is just not the easiest. And they really have some stuff to figure out throughout this book in order to get to where they want to be and figure out what kind of relationship they want, or if they can even be together. It's super steamy, I should mention. Like, this is definitely the steamiest book that I've read for this readathon, which is good because this is Smutathon after all. But there's also just a lot of like emotions and feelings, and I really like this book. It was just, for me, I like this combination of like kind of angsty, kind of steamy, but also with some like sweetness in there, because there was something sweet about this too. Like I said, it was kind of dark, but not like dark. So like it was angsty kind of, but with some sweetness. And the ending was definitely, like, the ending was very sweet. It was very different, I felt like, from the rest of the book. It was kind of like a switch there from the rest of the book and the ending, which I personally liked because I felt like I kind of needed that after the roller coaster of the story. But yeah, it was definitely something different towards the end. There's also a third character in here who is very important in this story. And I wasn't sure what I felt about him. I guess I liked him better towards the end, but I'm still not 100% sure what I feel about him. But I think he's going to be the main character in the second book, so maybe I'll just feel differently about it when I can actually read from his point of view, which I am assuming that I will. Anyway, this is a super messy update, I feel like. Bottom line, I really love this book. The writing style, I should also mention. The writing style in this was great. I have read from Heidi Cullinan before. I've read a book by her called Carry the Ocean, I think it is. It's been a few years since I read that one, but I gave that book 5 stars. And now that I've read this one, I just remember that this author's writing style it just works for me. It's just really good. And this book, it's very, very different from that other book that I read, but I want to say just as good. So I think I'm going to give this one 5 stars as well. I think I'm going to sit on it for a couple of days and just see how I feel. But it's already been 2 days since I finished the book, and I still feel like this is a 5-star book. So it was just good. It just worked for me. I don't think it's going to work for everyone necessarily, but it did for me. So that was great, and just such a good ending to the readathon. And also, this book has been on my TBR or on my Kindle since 2017. So I'm so happy that I finally picked it up, but also what have I been waiting for, Good thing I finally read it, especially since I liked it so much. So now I just want to read the other books in the series as well, even though they're about different couples, but still. So yeah, that was a messy update. My thoughts on this book, I guess, is just all over the place. But that was it for this readathon, really. I read 6 things, which I'm super happy with. A lot of them were shorter things, but still. I crossed off a lot of prompts on the bingo board. I got a whole bingo, and then I crossed off a lot of other prompts as well. I hope that editing me can just kind of do something to mark off which prompts on the board that I finished, and put it up on the side here probably somewhere, so you can see which prompts I finished. But I think that's going to be it for this vlog. I just had the best week reading these romances. It was just exactly what I needed, really. I mentioned that I've been reading a lot of fantasy lately, and I've been really enjoying the fantasy that I've read because I've been reading Robin Hobb, and I love those books. But I definitely needed a little bit of a break from fantasy, and it was just great to spend an entire week reading romances. Ideally, I guess some of them could have been a little bit steamier to fit the readathon better, but like I think it's fine. At least the final one that I read was definitely a perfect one for this readathon, so I think it's all good. But then I guess it's time to wrap up this vlog. If you've made it this far, I hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, you can always hit like down below, or you can subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos from me. But that's going to be it for now. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon with another video. Bye!